when you move through a subject, I think you learn something deeper. And so when you're able to move a book, move a source, then you've made a different connection personally. And somehow you flip that page, you flip that character in a different way in your brain.
This is A Line Around Your Thoughts, a podcast that centers on conversations with artists, writers, musicians, and creatives from around the Inland Northwest. I'm your host, E.J. Iannelli. This week, my guests are Jennifer Mead and Sherra Gallaher. They are members of the Inland Northwest Book Arts Society and book artists themselves. We talk about what the Inland Northwest Book Arts Society gets up to when they meet each month, why recycling and creative reuse is a big part of Sherra and Jennifer's work, and how book arts in general allows them to play with things like narrative. And during the lightning round, we figure out who's a procrastinator and who secretly wants to be a park bench. Before that, my thanks as always to Mel Antuna Hewitt for her ongoing support as a Patreon sponsor tier member. You can find her work online at librobuch.com. And full disclosure, Mel is the co-founder of the Inland Northwest Book Arts Society. And you, dear listener, can join Mel in becoming a Patreon supporter of this podcast. One of the perks is that I occasionally turn to our Patreon community for guest recommendations like this one. You can find out more at patreon.com/ALAYT. Then again, if Patreon isn't your thing, but you'd still like to become an episode or a season sponsor, look for the sponsorship and support opportunities on our website at alaytpodcast.com. Between episodes, you can also get updates and engage with us on Mastodon at alaytpodcast@pnw.zone, on Blue Sky at alayt.bsky.social, and Instagram at alayt_podcast. And now, onto the Rogue Heart Media Studio. So welcome, Sherra, and welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much.
So I am really glad you're here, and I was hoping that we would dive in with a topic that I actually talked about with Mel Hewitt, who is one of the founding members of the Inland Northwest Book Arts Society. So when she was in here, we delved into the concept of the book and what makes a book and book arts. And there's a phrase that's a favorite of hers, which is conceal to reveal. Does one of you want to dive in and talk about what that phrase means and how that defines or is a guiding force in book arts?
Yeah, I think the book for each of us, even going back to when we're children, it reveals something magical. It's a two-dimensional tome that holds a whole new world. Every time you open a book, you venture into a different world. And as an artist, a book artist, you have the opportunity to create a world, to create that portal for an individual who chooses to open your book. Book structure also creates that magic. So I think that's one of the reasons I'm drawn to book arts, the engineering aspect. Also conveying an idea, an obsession that I find myself in the middle of, presented in the form of a book.
And we're talking about that kind of, speaking of the reveal, the revelatory moment when we open a book and we first encounter it. And so it's that physical process of parting the covers and turning to that first page. And that element, almost like it's a present that we're opening. And so is this what book arts is trying to, that experience, is that what it's trying to enhance?
I think it moves beyond the word, the written word, which is in itself magical. You know, the ability to communicate in writing is a magical gift that we each are given, the gift of reading. But the structure of a book, the way an artist presents an idea or a topic, also conveys their feeling about that structure, that topic.
And in some of your work, how has the concealed to reveal been a guiding force or a guiding artistic force?
I can just talk about one work of mine called The Vault of Vanished Vestiges. And it's actually a book where little cards pop out magically, and the cards are the stolen jewels from the Louvre Museum. And it's like holding playing cards in your hand, saying, if you come across these, make sure you pay attention because they're missing. And to be able to remove an item from a book seems magical.
Yeah, because normally that's verboten. The
Right.
idea of removing something or taking something out of a book, you're kind of taught from very early on not to do that because that's destructive. But you've actually got a copy of that book that you were talking about right here. And as you held it up, it's about palm sized. And as you open it up, it's a bit like a pop-out book, but in such a way that it does almost magically slide those cards forward so that it's almost encouraging you to remove them.
Yeah, and every item that is removed from the Apollo Gallery where they were stolen. So it's like stepping into the Louvre Museum and walking away with the jewels yourself. And there's a purpose to have something so small that fits in your pocket because it's like your guide that you take with you when you exit the Louvre or when you're in search of the jewels of life. I mean, there are so many hidden messages in a book. An author does that, an artist does that, and the reader does that through their experience of opening that book, closing the book, choosing when they read it.
Yeah, and even the size of this item is symbolic in a way because if it were larger, it would be more difficult to pocket it and abscond with it.
Yeah.
But because it is so pocketable, you can really put those in your pocket.
You're getting it.
Yeah, and steal the jewels.
Yeah.
Now, Sherra, talk about some of your work that you've done, both inside and outside the Book Art Society.
Okay. Yeah, I think the concealed to reveal, because I wish people could see this book. It's really, really beautiful, Jennifer.
Yeah.
So when I would do like junk journals and smash books and that kind of thing, like having a flip out, because I kind of gravitate more towards what can I put in this little nook or cranny in a book. And so, yeah, I would build like big ones that had full like maps that would come out and bookmarks and like build your own ephemera that you could tuck into those. So I agree that being able to just put your own mark in something is magical.
But these are playing with just the very form of a book. So normally books follow a certain form. And again, this is something that I talked about with Mel, but I think it's, for me, a lot of the admiration that I have for the book arts is the inventive ways that these are being applied to the traditional format of the book. So sometimes I think when we talk book arts, we're thinking purely in terms of book bindings and elaborate book bindings, which kind of falls under that category. But there's also the element, this more playful and more inventive element that can be, as you open them, they are accordion style. They might follow a standard binding like this Louvre item does, and yet it plays with that in a way by making those cards pop out. And so, yeah, it's really riffing on the whole concept of that opening experience.
Yeah. I took a class with a man named Howard Munson years ago, probably in 1990s. And
was this in the Bay Area?
It was in the
Okay.
Bay Area, yeah. He was an artist who had to put on a display in a gallery. And he had to figure out how to transport all this art from West Coast to East Coast. And it was daunting. And finally, he decided that he would create a book in an accordion style that housed all of his artwork. And so the book would compress into one box. And when he got to this art exhibit, he pulled the accordion all the way across the gallery, and his art was set up. And when the exhibit was done, He closed the book, he put it back in a box, and he brought it back to the Bay Area. It was just fascinating how he problem solved and found a way to showcase his work, but also to build in this whole book structure as art, as well as his art being the focus of the exhibit.
And was that his first foray into the book arts, or had he been working within that realm for a while?
I'm not sure. He was teaching a class on how to create a gallery book, which we each left with. And he was just a master of instruction, like being able to teach how to measure, how to create the structure in your mind and a plan before you began. And also talk about how book arts are all about creating structure from found materials. One of his other stories was going to Romania and teaching book arts. And when he got there, he realized that all the paper factories were closed. There were no paper factories. So he used cardboard, he used trash. And, we visit Salvage. I mean, a shout out to Salvage here. Isn't that our go-to? And just the trash that you turn into treasure when you're a book artist is just incredible.
Yeah, Howard Munson he's a pretty fascinating guy. And that's why when you mentioned that, I wasn't aware of that gallery instance. I had seen some of his book arts because he had taught for quite a while at the San Francisco Center for the Book.
Right.
Is that where you took your class?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and he did some really interesting things where he was doing, as you find quite a bit now in the book arts, where people do three-dimensional pop-outs. And then also he had done, one of his works was Constructivism Revisited. And this was really interesting because he was a fan of jazz. And so there were like elements of Kandinsky and Miro in the pages that he was rendering there. And so, but it folded out and became a structure in and of itself, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, I think they're at the Berkeley Museum.
Yeah.
On exhibit still, yeah.
And Sherra, with your sort of entry into book arts, describe that to me. When did you first become aware of this? Because I know you've done watercolors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so was that your primary medium, and then you kind of fell into book arts?
That was a good one. I think it's probably a little bit the reverse. I started building like just sketch journals with my kids out of their old school papers, and it was so much more of a junk journal. Like I just wanted to reuse all of this paper. And once I started learning the options that I had for binding those things together, like how I could make it beautiful, how I could rearrange it, how I could, like the size that I could make it, then I wanted my own like really well-made, solid book that would lay flat just for journaling purposes. And so it was a Coptic stitch binding that really just stole my heart.
Now describe to me the Coptic stitch to a layperson.
Oh gosh. So like a traditional book has a hard spine on the back. It's got a area that covers the stitching. So the Coptic stitch is kind of a bunch of linked stitches that are naked, like on the outside of the book. Oh. So when you fold it open, the page that you're looking at is just perfectly flat across because there's nothing bulky behind that stitching.
And is this considered a stationary binding?
Yeah.
Am I getting the terminology right?
Signatures. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, I was folding those flat, and then I got into journaling, and then I wanted watercolor paper in a book that I could take on hikes, and then Mel taught me how to do like the traditional hardbound, case-bound book, and that, oh my gosh, it was magical. I have watercolor journals now that are too pretty to use. She would be upset to hear me say that, but I haven't touched them yet.
And so some of your work, is it dealing primarily then with the covers and less the guts of the book?
Well, I think it depends on the purpose, because if I have a whole bunch of just really cool, so we took a class on eco-printing. And so oh my gosh, the pages we made were the most beautiful leaves and floral patterns. And so if I was building a book that I was going to craft in later, that meaning like I was going to journal, then I wouldn't use the watercolor paper, which like my watercolor books usually I just sometimes will run under the sewing machine because I want them to be transportable and reusable. So the actual book that I make is more like a traveler's journal where I can interchange those signatures as I fill them up and take it with me. So yeah, I like the guts and the outside.
And Jennifer, I make this distinction between the cover and the guts, and I know that book artists would probably frown upon that because they're all of a piece. But when I see some of the work that you've done, you did, it's almost these works in relief. I don't know the technical name for it, but it was a book with an image of a troll, and it had kind of a three-dimensional quality to it where you were looking into it and it was framed.
Yeah, so I became really obsessed with Thomas Danbo, and he has trolls all over the world. So I created a tunnel book that had multiple trolls. Like there was an exhibit at Filoli in the Bay Area. I took my mom for her birthday. And so there were, I think, 5 trolls at the exhibit. So I wanted to show in relief, my mother and myself, and then going through each troll's posture. And it was like walking through the forest again, and a second gift that I would give my mom when she visited the tunnel book. So Tunnel Books melded a lesson with us just recently after I had made this. And what's fascinating is when you work with a real book artist, they have all these hidden, just to reinforce your book, you should do this, all the tricks of the trade. And so joining a group like this, you have these aha moments where you're like, oh, that could have made my project so much better. And it was just something very simple, but can really transform your work of art into something that is more functional, but also longer lasting because of that one little key.
Well, since we're talking about some of these tips and tricks that you learn, this is part of the Inland Northwest Book Arts Society, and it's been running since I think 2022. Is that right? And about how many members do you have attending on a fairly regular basis?
Yeah, I'm new to the group, and regularly about 10.
Okay, when you say new, how new?
How new? Within the last year.
Okay.
Yeah, I went in search of a group of people who were interested in book arts and found the group online.
So now I'm curious about what was the moment leading up to that, because if your first contact with book arts wasn't necessarily the Book Arts Society, but you had some pre-knowledge of that, where did you start? When did book arts start getting on your radar?
Oh, for me personally, I'm an educator, so book arts is something I used in the classroom for years. It's almost a meditation with students, where I would create a document that would help open a topic for students. And while students are researching, I would find myself on the ground, surrounded by a third of the class, 10 kids around me, holding the paper exactly the way I would hold the paper. Now, I would fold the paper, they would fold the paper. So it was this silent meditation that really changed the way I taught. I would give kids an empty box, like a pizza box at the beginning of the year. And I would say, by the end of the year, this will be full of your creations, full of your research. I would read a story called The Box about a child whose box is empty and how filling that box with the treasures of your life will change your life. And 20 years after kids left my classroom, they would come back with their box and say, I still have the box.
And I think of using it as a didactic tool. Now, the book itself is inherently tangible. I think that therein lies a lot of its appeal, and that's one of the reasons. Like as much of a technophile as I am, and I appreciate the convenience of ebooks, but it's really hard for me to get into them because I don't establish that physical connection with them. As you're turning the pages, I think that's part of the appeal of vinyl as well. The fact that you have to flip the record in the middle is a big part of its appeal. But do you find that when we cross that line kind of into book arts, that it becomes even more interactive, and that maybe enhances the maybe students' connection with it, and then turns it into a more engaging teaching tool?
It's almost like acrobatic learning. So when you move through a subject, I think you learn something deeper. And so when you're able to move a book, move a source, then you've made a different connection personally. And somehow you flip that page, you flip that character in a different way in your brain. And so it's such a unique tool. Not everyone got it. I had principals who would say, "Oh, there you go again with all those hands-on activities," and by the end they got it.
Yeah, but I think even the way that we engage with like a pop-up book is very different and a little more memorable. That experience sits in your brain a little bit more firmly than with an ordinary book, unless that book is like, dog-eared and creased and things like that. Because again, it's that tangibility. So I worry that I've forced you to digress there. So your connection as you're searching for the Inland Northwest Book Art Society or anything, what are you searching for at that time?
Anytime you have an artistic venture that you do all by yourself, it's lonely. And so you look for other people who spark your creativity, but who also will appreciate what it is you bring to the table. And so this group is, we're not asking Mel to teach everything. She is so open to having other people bring their ideas and their expertise and their creativity to every group. And so I was looking for that outlet.
I see. So, and reading can be a fairly solitary activity, and I guess a bit like, the creation of book arts. And so you were looking for a little more community around that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sherra, is this story similar with you?
Yeah.
Like, what is your entry point into the Inland Northwest Book Art Society?
Yeah, I'm a collector of technique. Like, oh my gosh, my crochet and knitting encyclopedia in my head is maybe unhealthy. But that was what I wanted. I wanted to know all of my options. I wanted to know what I could use and also what I couldn't use, or what people think I couldn't use. As a rebel crafter, like, I don't like being told what to do. So yeah, same. Just finding people that I could learn from and that would be able to say, look at what we can build together. Look what we can learn from each other.
I love that it's multiple ages too.
Right.
I mean, you're always bringing your kids.
Yeah.
And then we have individuals who are in their 80s.
Yep.
So we've got the gamut, and that's really exciting also.
Yeah. And the skill set is just mind-blowing. We had a new member show up with just a full set of like quilting gear. Like, as a quilter, she started building a book that was the most square, pristine, gorgeous thing that any first timer I had ever seen. It was amazing.
So describe to me the book that she is building, because I'm having difficulty making that leap from crocheter to book builder.
Oh, quilter. Yes.
Or quilter to book builder, yeah.
So, like, I dabbled in quilting. It turns out it's a little bit rule heavy for me. So I'm a little bit more like, it'll trim out. But so it was actually the class that I taught. And it was a traveler's nature journal on top of a cardboard accordion flower press. And so I really wanted to have something where I could collect specimens when I was out hiking, and then also the journaling space to, you know, dive deep into nature. So when I did it, I just had points on the cardboard, and I used a box cutter and no straight edge because, rules. And yeah, she showed up with just like every cut in the cardboard was 90 degrees. Every folded paper was, it was absolutely beautiful.
Well, you mentioned this, and again, this is the stuff that keeps blowing my mind about the book arts, is this almost pragmatic aspect or this functional aspect to the book. And here you're saying like, okay, I wanted to journal flowers.
Yes.
And so to do so, I needed a flower press, and therefore I created a book that would do that, and then also adorned that book accordingly.
Yeah.
So, it operates on all these different levels where it becomes functional, but also the aesthetic and also the inventive, the mechanical as well. Speaking of the mechanical, we've talked about a little bit about pop-up books and accordion books. What are some of the mechanics that have been integrated in books that you've been particularly impressed by and maybe even used yourself?
We always think, as you said, of pop-ups, any kind of fold. So there are folds where an item actually folds in upon itself into like, I'm trying to think how you would describe that.
It's like
hands folding into.
Right. Almost like a flower that sits between the sides of the pages. So when you open those pages, like the flower unfolds bigger than the book pages themselves.
Oh, wow.
It's like the magic of a map, like we used to have when we were kids, and somebody threw it at us in the back seat before the phone told us how to get from place to place, right? And then you had to try and figure out how to refold that map. It's like we were talking about origami, how important origami would be. My son's in engineering, and he's like, Mom, the facet of space exploration and the massive amounts of origami that will be transported into space just to move a huge object from Earth to where it needs to be transported is just going to be incredible. And so you don't think of paper folding or material folding in that way until, you meet a 19-year-old brain who says,
well, I mean, this to me is just another example of Howard Munson. And, he needed to transport goods and did so in book form so that they expanded. And we go back all the way to this conceal to reveal and this fundamental guiding principle of book arts. And, you mention the idea of space constraints or these spatial illusions in a way, because the book compacts something, and then so much of book arts has to do with that explosion in a way and moving things beyond the confines and making it almost larger than the what you started out with.
Yeah, it's all about engineering.
Yeah.
And I think reverse engineering is something that really attracts me to book arts. Like, how the heck did they do that?
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how much scrap paper is folded and in baskets. And, looking for some things today, I was a little overwhelmed by how much I really need to go through and organize a little better.
Now, have you come up with any personal origami that you're particularly proud of, where you were maybe trying to fit something within the dimensions of a book and you had to fold it in a certain way, and then the art is in the folding?
Yeah. So a friend of mine passed, and he was a professor in Oxford, and he was a collector. And so Oxford, Alice in Wonderland always comes to mind for me, because that's where the story began, in a boat on the river on July 4th. And so as a collector, I thought, I'm going to put my note to him in a book that's all playing cards of Alice in Wonderland. And how do I connect the playing cards? And I did it with toothpicks and folded paper so that they were hinged. And you go through a deck of Alice cards to finally reach the note about my friend being the collector and ending his life with Alice in Oxford. So, hinging and folding and deciding what is going to convey your message, I think, through material is fascinating to me.
Yeah, and you had mentioned, I think before we started talking in a recorded fashion, but we were talking about the zine and how that had been an element of the Inland Northwest Book Arts Society. And this is something that the zine, in some respects, is defined by its folds. And so this was a class that you had, and then you had a member who actually made her own zine and then interviewed members of the class, and then they brought it in and handed it out like a zine, no?
Yeah. We love you, Elaine. Yeah, I would go back to the folding too. So we did one class that was an accordion spine. So you accordion fold a piece of paper that's smaller than your signatures. And then you put the mountainside of that accordion through a cut in the signatures. And then you block it in with a smaller piece of paper. And that I thought was fascinating because you could build a book out of any scrap paper anywhere around you. You don't need a needle, you don't need a thread. Like, you can, just having paper near you, you can build a book that opens and closes.
And you had mentioned art salvage and talking about repurposing materials. And I think, Jennifer, for a book that you just published, you took some element of that and repurposed it as part of the publishing process, and you came out with like miniature versions of that. So how much is that part of your ethic or your ethos, is repurposing things?
Oh, well, as an educator, as a mom, as a person who buys groceries, and so much of what we purchase to consume is non-consumable. I think we're surrounded by things that could be turned into art. I mean, you were talking about your wrappers that you did.
Oh my gosh. I, for about 3 months, had a goal to not throw any non-recyclable plastic in the garbage. Like, none. And so I was washing every cracker bag, every piece of garbage. And I was almost immediately overwhelmed because you were right. There's so much. But I was trying to figure out a way to turn it into art that would be functional and beautiful and just keep it out of the landfill. So I melted a lot of it into like traveler books covers. And yeah, and then it was just like, okay, well, I'm up to my eyeballs in garbage. We're going to have to make a new plan.
So you melted the plastic in kind of like a collage fashion?
Yes.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
That releases some toxic fumes. So it's not,
it was outside.
It's
Yeah.
not as
Yes.
eco-friendly as
Right. And plus, like, just washing all the, oh man, it was a lot. So yeah, pros and cons, like, you gotta.
But what percentage of the work that you make would you say is repurposed?
Oh gosh, I am self-professed cheap and stubborn. And so I would say most of what I do is from like just work cutoffs. Like they'll have a bunch of scrap paper or the cutoffs from the shredder. Oh, that's one of my favorites. So I'll make paper clay and then start doing Halloween decorations, or like, most of what I do is
So with the
garbage.
actual shreddings that,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what do you do with them? How do you incorporate that?
Oh gosh. If you put a bunch of like glue and flour, you can actually make a clay and you can build anything. So I have like full size, maybe it's a little morbid, full size tombstones in my front yard that look like stone, just using recycled paper clay and old Amazon boxes.
And Jennifer, what about you?
It's not just materials that I think we need to recycle. Like, I love revisiting old authors and artists' work, like Walter Crane from the 1800s has these amazing illustrations of nursery rhymes and fairy tales. And just, I think we've lost a lot of our understanding of fairy tales, and just revisiting, I think, is also important.
But book arts is a way to present those fairy tales in a new way.
That's
So
right.
rather than simply reissuing a new edition in a conventional binding, what you did with your homage to Walter Crane was this was an exhibition at the Spokane Public Library, no?
It was.
Yeah. And so again, we get into this kind of structural or unfolding element. Can you talk about that work?
Yeah, it's a flag book of sorts where the pages are folded in an accordion fashion, and then each of Walter Crane's illustrations folds out into an elongated display that is in a full row of his story from start to finish. So it moves like flags in the wind
I
could
see.
move. And so you move through his story. You could move picture by picture, but you can also display the entire story across a long plane.
Yeah, and so it allows you to, in a way, manipulate narrative too by being able to present the things in this way. So you no longer have to follow things linearly as the normal or conventional book presents, but this allows you because you can, take these new spatial representations and then move them into different positions and play with narrative that way, no?
Yeah, I think each person starts their story. Like life is story, isn't it? Like all of us live our life finding our own story, making our own story. But we all start our storytelling in different places. And so when you have a linear display of a story, everyone can start where they want and end where they want. So it kind of mixes up or fractures the fairy tale a bit. So it's fun to create a new structure for an old story.
Yeah, it's a bit like Graham Greene and The End of the Affair. I don't know if you've read that book, but yeah, it famously starts off, a story has no beginning and no end, and it's just the point at which you choose to enter into it and the point at which you choose to leave off. So yeah, and I guess book arts kind of riffs on that.
It sure does.
And so what are some of the works that you have created as part of the Inland Northwest Book Arts Society? So, Jennifer, you were interested in book arts prior to arriving there. Now, what have you done within the scope of the Book Arts Society and some of those classes?
I think what's been most fascinating to me is seeing what each person brings to the lessons. Like the most recent one was a book structure that was a book within a book within a book. We're going to be doing a spool book in the next month, where you take a found object, an old spool, and create a scroll on that book. But when you have a scroll, you have two sides of a story. You have an inside and an outside. But you also can build up or build under a spool. So it will be fascinating to see, you prompt people and say, bring things to create a display of your idea. So again, it's not flat. What else have we done? The journal with the flower presses, I thought was so beautiful. And then the whole idea that you were taking that into the woods on the same day that
We're
you
fellow
made
hikers.
it. Yeah, it was so
I see.
great.
I see.
Yeah, we have done wire-bound bindings. Carol taught just an incredible.
And
I think it's a
wire bound,
stitch.
like the spirals?
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Like the notebooks that
Yes.
that you have in school.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So we made our own spiral bound books, which I had never seen one of those machines in action before, but she brought it and shared it. We've done a double-sided book. So like it's kind of a Z fold, and then each side opens when you flip it around. Dos a dos, I think, is what we called that one. Yeah. And then Mel's just traditional case-bound books, bookbinding.
Tunnel books. That
We did
was
tunnel
really
books.
fun. Yep. The zine was great to see the variety of subject matter that people have created.
Yeah, we dabble in origami too for like cases for the books that we're building. Those are always very exciting, challenging.
And so earlier you had talked about some of the tips and tricks. What are the tips and tricks that you have learned that you have ended up applying to your own artwork?
I think one of the tips is to have a case that has all your tools in it. It's not something that's listed every month in what you should bring. It's an abbreviated go-to collection of tools that you use to create. And so if everyone starts with that, and then from there, the structure is really secondary. So, you have a bone folder, you have a sharp knife or a sharp pair of
Did you say you have a bone folder?
bone folder, yeah.
Okay. Describe that.
Sometimes it's a popsicle stick if that's all you have. And that way you get a really crisp fold.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, and that makes, like with sewing, if you're a person who sews, they always say bring your iron because your garment will turn out better if you iron before you sew.
Yeah.
The same is true with book arts. So having very simple tools before you begin, and then have at it.
Yeah, for me, my daughter gifted the family this year a story that she wrote about each of us. So she just graduated from Eastern's English program. And she wanted to write this book, and she was going to hand it out in like PDF. And I said, but I know how to make a book. Like, what if we case bound this book and handed it out as gifts for everybody? And so we did.
And when you say case bound, just so folks have a visual,
Yeah.
This is a box that contains the book, no?
No, this is a traditional hardbound book.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, just how, like, anytime you get a really...
We've got a visual aid here, which is just a standard hardcover that we would see in the library or, on our shelves. Okay.
in any bookstore, we got fancy little metal corners, and that's her story that she made for us.
And so one of the things that I find, and I think others might find daunting, is some of the lingo and some of the terminology. So is this vocabulary that you have acquired over the years? Is it something that folks who are maybe attending the Book Art Society for the first time would find a little daunting?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Because when you said case bound, me, not knowing what exactly that term defined, I was imagining like one of Mel's books, which comes in, an actual case where you lift it out and then, you open the lid and then you remove the book from that.
Yeah. Oh gosh, she was the one that taught me this terminology. So
So it's something you just pick up.
Yeah. Just being around. We have a lot of retired educators, and so they are. They're just fantastic. They're focused and motivated, and they can teach you if you have a question. You just ask your neighbor, like, "Wait, what? I'm confused."
It's so
they
visual.
help a lot. Yeah. And so, no, I would say that showing up with just the spirit of wanting to learn something new. Like I would share my bone folder with a neighbor that didn't have one. We regularly share glue. Somebody brought wet glue instead of like a glue stick, and that will take forever to dry. So yeah.
Cereal
it's
box.
Such a good group. Cereal boxes. I like to craft out of garbage.
Yeah.
And in terms of book arts, if somebody were kind of contemplating this and saying, I like that idea of kind of being able to play with narrative and play with the structure of the book, what are the things that you find rewarding that maybe other participants have found rewarding as well in just dealing with this format? Because obviously you've chosen to go with this either over other forms or in addition to other forms. So why this?
Oh, for me, hands down. It is at the end of our 2-hour class, you have something tangible. You have a thing that is, it might not be perfect, But if you got enough out of it that you want to make it again, then yeah, it just, the skill set grows and you learn that the different areas of where that technique will fit into what you need a book to do or your art to do, or like just learning from everybody in there.
I was thinking about your interview with Mel and how she said before she even starts a project, she already sees the outcome in her mind. And when you endeavor into book arts, you start seeing moments in your life represented in a book, and it kind of takes over. Ergo, all those little folded papers everywhere in baskets in my house. But yeah, you just start seeing things differently. Your life unfolds differently.
Ooh.
And as we wrap up, how have you grown as maybe individuals or as artists through this, these monthly workshops?
This one's a little hard, but I'm going to admit that sometimes it's good to follow the rules and take your time and measure things out. I know, don't tell anybody I said that. Because now having a little bit more technical skills means that I get to apply how the whimsy, like, do I want it to be out of painted butterfly wing pages of newspaper, or do I want it to be something really professional and clean? And yeah, that just expanding that ability has been wonderful. I love it so much.
Yeah, and getting those techniques down allows you to experiment with them and play with them, and then you can start kind of
Right.
riffing on them. Jennifer, what about you?
Having an opportunity to actually display my work was just outstanding. Mel, I want to shout out to the Spokane Library System, who
Yeah.
allows us to meet every month. That's extraordinary, to have a space and to have that space where you get to meet other people. But then to have an exhibit and to be challenged. I don't know about you, but I find what gets in my way is something I call my Da Vinci syndrome, where I create something, but I don't finish it because I'm on to the next thing. And so to have this challenge, you have an opportunity to put something on display. I was like, damn, I better get on it. So,
You have the group to be your taskmaster
Yeah.
and say, no, you really need to get this done.
it's the date. That's that date.
Yeah,
It's on my
deadline.
calendar. So that's really great. And it gets me out of the house and, not cooking for the 19-year-old who wants to eat all the time. It's good.
So your comment about having a deadline to work towards is very apropos as we wrap up the interview and move into the lightning round, which is 4 questions, and it starts with an either or. And I don't know if you want to, arm wrestle over who goes first, or Jennifer, you're. You were raising your pinky
you're
because you were going to pinky wrestle. Well, since you brought up this idea of deadlines, I'm going to lob the first question at you. So it's an either or choice.
All right.
And that is start things immediately or wait until the last minute.
Waiting until the last minute is a sign of brilliance, is what I've been told, right?
I would love to believe that, I'm going to
And
throw
it's
my
the-
lot behind
And
that.
it's the
Somebody
brilliant
must have said
people
it.
of the world who wait till the end. But be not fooled that there is lots going on behind the curtain before you begin.
Right.
Yeah. I wait till the end.
You wait till the last minute?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were going to opt for start things immediately because you were extremely punctual today. And I thought, you know what? I think I know how they're going to answer the lightning round. So the fact that you're even saying wait until the last minute, that is a pleasant surprise for me. And I take heart because I'm a last minute person as well. Sherra, same question.
Same question. Gosh, it depends on if I know the technique or not. So I would probably say start immediately, because if it's something new, I'm all in. Like, I want to know exactly what it can do. And then I have time to riff off of that. Like, did it work? No. Okay. Well, what if I try that? What if I change this? my thread was too thick. My book is guts are hanging out. I got to adjust.
Okay, so we have a procrastinator and then someone who will start immediately.
I think so.
Okay, good. Everyone can relate. Sherra, you're going to get the next question.
Okay.
What is something that you used to believe very strongly that you now feel you got all wrong?
Oh, golly. I would probably say that I used to believe that every junk mail envelope, every piece of scrap paper, I mean, like right down to less than an inch big. Like I had to use everything. I wasn't allowed to throw any of it out. And then when I just, because I have a craft space in the basement that is every crafter's dream, and I couldn't find what I was looking for, and I was drowning in materials, so much so that I would find myself working on the floor. And I was like, okay, I have to make this more functional. And so I did a pretty deep KonMari clean out of the craft room, and it echoes a little bit now. Like it's so good. I don't even have to be on the floor at all.
So you used to believe very strongly in, let's call it collecting and not hoarding.
Okay, thank
so,
you.
So you used to believe very strongly, and now you're more feng shui. You're
Right.
a little more minimalist.
Yeah, believing that I couldn't throw anything out. Find a way to reuse it, to repurpose it, to recycle it, and I couldn't.
Okay.
Not indefinitely.
Yeah, crafters take heart. There is a way out. Jennifer.
I thought in life I had enough time to do everything I wanted to do in my life. And now I know that time is fleeting. And I just have to make the most of it every day and find those passions and put them in paper somehow.
So a reminder of carpe diem.
Yeah.
Seize the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, be it, a search for my genealogy past, or what I hope for the future, or, looking for jewels that were stolen from the Louvre. Leave a challenge behind.
All right.
Yeah.
Don't put it off.
Don't put it off.
Which seems at odds with your first answer, but start immediately.
Yeah, it's
whatever you want to
challenging in the
do.
spring.
Whatever you want to do.
Also, a time crunch is exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this seems fitting given the medium that we're working with. I'd like your most favorite and your least favorite book.
So I'm haunted by, and to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street, which was a book I read when I was a child, and this parade marches through my dreams since I was a kid. And is that a favorite or a least favorite? I'm not quite sure. It just always shows up, and then
Yeah, it's memorable.
it's memorable. My favorite, then. When my son was first born, I found that I couldn't read a full book because I was interrupted all the time. So I fell in love with short stories. And Mav Binchy comes to mind as one of my favorite go-to authors to escape.
Is there a particular short story collection that you can think of offhand?
Roald Dahl is one of my very favorite short story authors because he's so out there. You never know what's going to show up or who's going to show up in his short stories.
Yeah, this a little bit of the surreal there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Sherra, what about you? I want most favorite and least favorite.
Okay. Well, so my favorite author is Stephen King, but that feels like kind of separate. So I'm going to say my least favorite book that I have made, it was a junk journal that was just a little bit too much junk. Like the pages didn't function as well as I wanted it to. So that was my least favorite. My most favorite is the one I did with my daughter, Tayra. The dedication in there, like, don't open it, EJ. I will cry.
And this is the case-bound, because I'm picking up terminology here. This is the case-bound one that is sitting in front of us.
Right.
In this kind of striated, like raised groove type cover.
Yeah, with a little metallic thread in it. That was a fabric I found at a thrift store.
Oh, cool.
Way back when, yeah.
All right, last question. If you had to be an inanimate object for a day, what would it be?
Man, the first thing that comes to mind would be like a park bench or something where people go to a natural space to contemplate, to reflect. Like, I would love to see people interact with their natural spaces.
And is there an eavesdropping element to that? I mean, some of the conversations you must hear as a park bench.
Maybe, but also like a little validating because I also go and hug a tree when I'm sad. Like,
Do you really?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And do you find comfort in that?
100%. My other daughter has a tattoo of a cedar tree that we have gone out when she needs a pick-me-up. We hike out in Liberty Lake Park and she hugs her tree and we can like kind of let go of the negative feelings. We toss them in the river and forge ahead.
Yeah, I mean, a tree is a little less maintenance than a pet.
That's
so,
very true.
If people are looking for comfort, get a
Go
tree.
find a
Go
tree.
plant a tree.
Yeah. They're all
Find a
over.
tree.
Yeah.
I think I'd be a light bulb.
Why would you be a light bulb?
Well, it illuminates what other people are seeing, and then you kind of have to guess what it is they're getting out of the moment. And then when they're done, it's calm and quiet, and you wait for the next person to show up to see what it is they're looking at. Yeah.
Excellent. A very philosophical approach to a very silly question. So thank you.
But isn't it animate? Is it really? Because it moves, right? I don't know.
Well, Sherra and Jennifer, I want to thank you so much for coming in today and talking about your own work as well as the Inland Northwest Book Arts Society. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the
EJ.
opportunity.
This was great.
This has been A Line Around Your Thoughts. My name is EJ Iannelli, and my guests this week were Jennifer Mead and Sherra Gallaher, who are book artists and members of the Inland Northwest Book Arts Society. The group next meets on July 25th at Liberty Park Library, where they'll be working on a technique known as Japanese stab binding. For more info, visit them online at inwbookartssociety.wixsite.com. As we close, a nod to our founding sponsor, Rogueheart Media SPC, proudly rooted in Spokane and supporting our community with media that makes a difference. For more, visit rogueheart.media. If you are interested in becoming an episode or a season sponsor and keeping these conversations going, please reach out through our website at alaytpodcast.com. And to show your support for A Line Around Your Thoughts and even join the conversation yourself, become a part of our Patreon community. Check out our page at patreon.com/ALAYT for more. You can also get updates and engage with us on Mastodon at alaytpodcast@pnw.zone, on Blue Sky at alayt.bsky.social, and Instagram at alayt_podcast. Until next week,